Et donc, c'est Yelena Nenedovic. Donc, ça en ce moment, elle n'est pas française, donc elle parle très bien français en fait, mais elle parle encore mieux anglais, donc elle va faire son tour en anglais. Et elle va vous parler du coup du BCI adaptative autour de l'impact du flow sur l'entraînement en BCI.
Merci pour la présentation et merci pour l'invitation. Je suis désolée vraiment, mais je vais parler en anglais parce que je me sens plus à l'aise. I will try to talk about flow today and how it influences the BCI neurofeedback training. As Fabien said, I am a part of INRIA, Bordeaux and Lyon. So, unfortunately, many things were already said about BCI, so I will be really brief. So brain-computer interface is a system in which the user manipulates a machine on an external device with only their brain activity. So in our case, we measure that brain activity with an EEG. And so there is a response onto their performance, which is called the feedback, you already will know. So hopefully we wanted to facilitate learning. But most research is done on signal acquisition techniques, making the hardware more robust and wearable. And also many of research is done on improving the machine learning techniques, which is extracting signal features which represent the user's intention and translating them into really simple commands, presenting the feedback. But what about the user? So is it a colorless figure that only produces brainwaves? Well, of course not. We all differ, as Leah already said, age, skill, experiences, gender, personalities, multiple personalities, and mood swings. So all that influences our neurophysiological representation. So in that way, again, I'll say what Leah said, but in English, citing our supervisor, so if the user isn't capable of producing, or if the user is not doesn't know how to manipulate the system, then no machine learning technique would be able to recognize or decode the patterns, because there won't be any coherency, most probably. So it's very important to concentrate on learning and motivating the user, and so designing a proper neurofeedback or shortly feedback. So I'll talk about learning, but really shortly. So starting historically with the most basic learning mechanism with the Pavlovian conditioning. I'm sure you all know, but I'll say it. The experiment with the dog, in which it was recognized that it produced saliva whenever presented with food. So when we present a neutral stimuli with the food each time, it creates an association with the, for example, the bell that rings, ringing bell. So each time we will present, the bell is presented, even without food, the dog would produce saliva, so it would expect food. Another example is Thorndike's law of exercise, which says simply in this example with the cat in the box, that the first time the cat will be in the box, it will randomly will take a lot of time to get out by pulling the string which is on top. And each next time it will take less and less time to get out from the box, and it would be, as the law of effect says, that it would be with a reward, it would take even less time. So this theory was developed further with Skinner, and he introduced the operant conditioning and reinforced learning, that learning that is positively reinforced would be strengthened, while the one that is negatively reinforced, it would be weakened. So I will go brief. And so in these theories, this is mostly about extrinsic motivation, which is, for example, for animals it's giving food or water, whatever, and for human it's money or different grade, But as humans have more complex cognitive functions, we pass from the behavioral theories to the cognitive development theories, which I wanted to just mention Vygotsky, who talks about the importance of the social presence in learning, and explains the zone of proximal development, which is a zone in which the learner can achieve the task with the learner, and then hopefully in the future will achieve the task completely independently. So, and this also brings up the idea of intrinsic motivation, that the learning itself should be motivating. So if we go further into motivation theories in instructional design, we have the ARCS model from Keller, that ARCS represents attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. So the attention, which means that the material that is being learned should be very attractive and it should be bring curiosity. It should be relevant, and the learner should feel confident and capable of achieving the task. And finally, be satisfied with the learning and the result, intrinsically and or extrinsically. And then I just wanted to mention really fast that why shouldn't learning be also fun? So Malone's taxonomy of intrinsic motivation for learning. And which brings us finally to our focus, which is flow theory. It is if the task has clearly defined goals, immediate feedback, and skills match complexity, which means that the task isn't nor difficult nor it's too easy for the user. So it's right in the middle. It's balanced between the challenge of the task, the difficulty, and the user capabilities. I'll always say the user because we talk about BCI, but in here it's a learner or a person. So if these requirements are accomplished, then the person is immersed completely in the task, feels in control and is focused, and experiences an autotelic experience, which is a self-rewarding experience or intrinsically motivated experience. And in the literature it showed that if in such a state of flow, people perform in the best of their capacities. So I just wanted to say that Csikszentmihalyi was fascinated by artists and performers who would spend so much time in doing their work and performing, completely immersed in their task and completely forgetting about the time that is being passed. So that's how the idea of flow started, and then it was spread in many, many other domains. I want to talk about music, the relationship between music and flow, because apparently music has a big influence on activity and physical activity. For example, it has an ergogenic effect, which means that a person who is doing some physical activity, they overperform. They can show much more strength and power when listening to some motivating music. So, for example, there's a famous athlete, Hale here, who broke a 10,000-meter world record in 1998, who said that he paced his running and his rhythm with the music he was listening to, and it gave him more strength. So to evaluate, there are many literature on flow and music. So it showed also that music improves flow and improves the intrinsic motivation and especially if the tempo is medium. But it talks only about synchronous music, the music in the background, which is kind of understandable, because if you're learning something or reading something, you can't really sync that with music, so it should be something maybe relaxing in the background. But the synchronous music mostly is used in some physical activity, in improving physical activity. So we conducted an experiment with a former PhD student, a brilliant PhD student from Potiok in Ria, and an intern, Manon Bonissab. Oh, sorry, I didn't say sorry. And we wanted to know whether or not flow would improve the user performance in BCI and their experience overall. So we manipulated flow by adapting the feedback or the task difficulty, and by using asynchronous or the music in the background to see how it influences flow and maybe improve performance. So those are the requirements of flow. Skill means challenge, music, and so we used it, implemented in an immersive feedback, and we thought a video game would be a best representative of an immersive feedback. So I will show you the game that we used. It's called Tux Racer. Actually, it's an open source video game that we modified for our needs. So that's a penguin that should catch fish on the left or on the right. And it's manipulated by motor imagery control. So if we imagine left hand movement, it would go to the left. Right hand movement, it goes to the right. And this example is an example of an adaptive feedback because, well, users aren't usually so good. They don't catch so much fish. So how we adapted the feedback. If the target, for example, here, it's a clear target. It was the fish are on the left. And the user performs really poorly, so it would go, the penguin goes to the right. We would help them the most. So we would actually, by adding the half distance between the actual position of the penguin and the target. And in the case in which, for example, they're closer to the target, we, again, so that's help them less. And in the case in which they are really good, we don't want them to feel it's really easy and get bored, so we would decrease their performance so that they keep giving more effort. We had 28 participants in 2 groups, one that didn't have adaptation and one with adaptation. They had 2 within subject conditions, which is with music and without music. And each of these conditions was followed with a questionnaire that's called EduFlow, made by Jean-Note. And all of them had a calibration phase, which is a typical phase in BCI, in which the machine learns to decode, to recognize users' intention. So there is no feedback here. So I'll go to the results. Here we conducted a 2-factor ANOVA test, and we had the between subject condition, which is the adaptivity, and the within subject condition, the music condition. And you see on the y-axis here, it's the score of EduFlow, which is a 7 Likert scale. And you see that users they feel more in flow when they are in music and in the adaptive environment. However, there is no significant difference in the only adaptive condition, but there is interaction between adapting and music. So there is another also interesting result. There is a correlation between the flow and user performance. As Fabien already explained, I thought it would be clear, but you know that the performance is actually the output of the classifier, which here represents the position of the penguin. Okay? So, but the thing is, however, we found only correlation within the offline performance, which means that the system was tested and trained only on the game, okay, and the so we used, but okay, there was no calibration between there was no correlation between flow and online performance. So this brings us to a question that maybe the difference in the training, actually the training environment matters quite a lot. So brings a lot of questions. And here, a really unexpected result of two-factor ANOVA test. We thought that we could we can manipulate flow with music and adapt condition, but apparently they didn't have better performance. I'm talking about online performance now, so it's a system that's trained on the calibration that you saw and tested on the game. So it's quite interesting, these results, not what we expected. It's completely inverse. So they perform better without music and when it's no adapt. But we think maybe it's because of this metric that we are using. Okay, I'll talk about that maybe later with questions. So, yes, does the adaptation improve flow? Well, not by itself. Music does, and the interaction. And so it doesn't improve performance, at least the way we manipulate flow. Flow improves with performance. So the fact that it is correlated, it does show that it does improve in a way, but we don't know really how to explain that. And it shows that really this training environment matters. So flow is a really complex phenomenon. So maybe we should, in the future, see to find some other confounding factors, or, for example, which could be controlling for musical education of users. Because it's very interesting, in our experiment, the participants, some of them were musicians, and their motor imagery was, they imagined playing an instrument. So when they heard music, it disrupted their imagination. And we found that very interesting. We didn't think about that before, so it really opened new new paths of research. And also, we found that because motor imagery is related to motor functions, right? So if it is shown that also patients and different persons, they improve their skills with synchronized music. So this rhythmically cued stimuli could really influence motor imagery. We think that could also be quite interesting. So not desynchronous music, but synchronized this time. Because we used only one session, so we thought maybe multiple sessions would be interesting to see how they gradually maybe developed and learned, and how to maybe adapt this bias gradually also. So this is only one little piece of possibilities that we can adapt in BCIs. This is an example of one just little example of everything that could be maybe adapted in a BCI. So my thesis would comprise of adapting some of these elements and maybe improve BCI overall. So thank you for your attention.
Merci à nouveau pour ce respect du timing et félicitations pour cette très intéressante présentation et également très jolie. Est-ce qu'il y a quelques questions dans la salle? On a 10 minutes.
Could you please just clarify a bit how you influence flow with music? Is that related to power of music? Or?
No, yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe I actually have it here. Oh no, I only have. So we had 6 runs per condition, so for music, and we had 3 different songs that we used. So 1 per 2 runs. We conducted an investigation. So we chose music that had medium tempo, and that has free copyright. Because actually in the beginning we wanted to make the user choose themselves music that is most motivating for them, but we couldn't do that because of copyrights. So we chose some of them that people from our circle, we made a really little questionnaire and said, oh, which music do you find maybe more motivating? And we chose 3 of them. So that should be also maybe more investigated, I agree. But does that answer your question? Maybe, no?
And then choosing different songs.
It was just, yeah, sorry, so we manipulated, it was music and no music groups. So there was just music, we didn't change the music. But it would be really interesting, so the idea was synchronized music, to really sync each trial with, we thought maybe it was pure data, to create a sound that really corresponds to the game. And that would maybe, induce the rhythmicality and the feeling of motor functions.
Could you describe the task? Describe the task, please.
Okay, well the task was basically, what we told the participants was to imagine left or right hand movement to manipulate a penguin that would go left or right. And so, as usually we say in motor imagery, we say, well, imagine, because in the literature showed that if they imagine a more familiar movement with their hands, something that they do usually, it would maybe produce better signals. So musicians, apparently, they imagined, for example, a guitar, melody and rhythm. So maybe even adding this other dimension of sound and music maybe also improves the performance. It's very interesting.
Okay, thanks very much for your presentation. I'm just a little bit wondering about your adaptive feedback. Just based on sort of closed loop models, you would expect that the error signal would be largest when it would be further away from the zone, whereas in your case you kind of inverted it, so it would make more effort or more cognitive control when the error would be smallest, and make it easier for you when the error would be largest. Which is not consistent with sort of physiological models of error feedback learning. For example, go-no-go trials, post-error usually there's an increase in theta rhythm, which kind of says to the system you need to control more because your error is larger. So there's kind of element of learning to control particular performance. So in your case, given the fact that also your results show that without this adaptive thing, there's better learning, I'm wondering whether that was...
Well, exactly, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Maybe because we help them, right, so much that they, I don't know.
Because also if you think about it like the threshold or the error signal acts as a kind of absolute reference, you can of course shift it, but it needs to be somewhere where you kind of understand, okay, how much cognitive control, where you refer to. But if that's shifting or you kind of even inverted it, then the system can really learn association as well. For example, in our neurofeedback applications, we try not to change the threshold too much. But it depends. People have different visions on how people achieve learning the best.
I don't know, maybe Fabian know more. Do you have a comment?
One comment, there were some studies with a fixed bias feedback on BCI, and they showed that it increased performance for naive users. So that was kind of along the same idea, but with adaptive feedback. But that's all the question, as Lina mentioned, how to bias the feedback. Because on one sense, if you help the user, they will be maybe more motivating, because when they really fail, at some point they just give up, basically. But maybe, well, that's all the question, how much, yeah, that's really...
So I was wondering if you did try to look at clusters within your subjects to see which of them responded better or not to the task. Actually, the question which is behind it that maybe some of your subjects were better than others at modulating their motor activity. In that case, trying to decrease the difficulty of the task would actually be very boring for them. You chose to change the difficulty of the task, but the same way for any user. So maybe one direction that could be investigated would be to try to estimate the flow, I would say almost in real time, but subjectively, and to adapt this adaptation technique to the user. This is done actually in serious games, adapting the difficulty to the perceived flow, the subjective flow.
Yes, maybe you're talking about Boitko, I don't know, I've read some things. But yeah, what we did, is we had the first group that was known adapted. We empirically actually calculated the value of flow. So the optimal position of the penguin in which they felt more in flow. Which means, in other words, we saw that there was a correlation in the non-adaptive group between flow and the performance. And so in that way, we found the value of the score in flow. So the highest flow score that corresponded to the highest performance. Okay, so we chose that to be the value of flow, and I agree it was later on implemented on all the group, but I agree it should be in time increased or decreased, changed.
Because it might actually be that you would need to change the task difficulty adaptively. In other words, for instance, helping more in the beginning and less in the
Exactly. That's what I wanted also to say in the end, that maybe having only one class motor imagery in the beginning and then adding the second one, inducing difficulty in that way. But also why we chose to do biased feedback is because at the beginning we thought, okay, maybe we can increase the speed to increase the difficulty, or maybe put the fish further away so they didn't. But then we realized that they will be aware that maybe we're helping them or not, because imagine if the user, the participant, is not able to do anything, performs really poorly, and sees that we are helping them, and still they do nothing, they would be really frustrated, right? So we chose to so that they're not aware of this change, right? So that doesn't correspond to your question, but I just wanted to say. Okay.
Une question. Alors, je vais faire en français.
Pas de problème.
Voilà. Non, je réfléchissais à une comparaison du flow quand j'ai appris à faire du vélo, en fait. J'aurais pas mieux appris à faire du vélo avec la musique, en fait. J'ai appris à faire du vélo parce que l'élément du flow, c'était les petites roulettes que ma mère a remontées progressivement et qui, chaque fois que je basculais, me faisait rappeler. Et à un moment, j'ai compris que le flow de faire du vélo, il y avait quelque chose qui faisait de ma gravité dans la boucle même de ma motricité, de la perception que j'avais de mon vélo, que j'avançais avec mon vélo. Et à un moment, on a retiré les roulettes. Et du coup, par analogie, c'est pour ça en anglais je peux dire, mais par analogie, quel serait l'équivalent de roulettes en fait, si on considère que c'est bien ça qui a été l'élément de l'apprentissage et de la création de mon flow progressif, puisque la roulette se montait progressivement dans le neurofeedback.
Ce que tu dis, en fait, ça parle plutôt de la zone de développement, zone proximal ZPD. Parce qu'en fait, c'est là où il y a le contexte aussi social. Ta mère, mais bon, c'est pas grave. Mais
ça c'est Peanut, c'est
Peanut, oui. Mais voilà, il y avait cette sorte de increase, augmentation de difficulté. Du coup, je pense que c'est ça, cette zone de développement proximal. Et après. Je sais pas si je comprends, la roulade, c'est les petits sur le vélo.
Sur le côté.
Oui, moi je sais pas. Non, c'est intéressant. C'est très intéressant.
L'idée derrière, c'est le flow, il est créé dans la boucle. Je rajoute un élément pour induire presque artificiellement du flow. Alors tu tiens avec l'analogie que tu fais par rapport à celle qui faisait la papier. Mais en fait, c'est des actions qui sont en place dans la boucle motrice standard, dans la boucle motrice, en fait, on n'a pas à savoir quelle feedback sur la alors moi, l'expérience que j'ai avec le neurofeedback, déjà le thermomètre est trop vite pour que je puisse comprendre, avoir un sentiment donné. Donc déjà, il y a tout. La qualité du
oui, mais imagine par exemple si t'as peur. Peut-être là, la musique pourrait être... je sais pas, il y a plein d'exemples.
Alors une toute dernière question, puis on interrompra.
Rapidement, mais je pense que ça a aussi vraiment rapport avec le plaisir au moment de faire, qui relance la motivation et qui permet du coup d'être capable d'accéder à un niveau de performance supérieur, qui permet de résoudre des tâches de difficulté supérieure. C'est un peu ce qu'on enfin, moi, je prends une analogie de psychiatre, hein, c'est dans la construction de l'estime de soi, c'est pas la facilité qui fait qu'on a une bonne estime de soi. C'est le fait d'être confronté à une difficulté et d'avoir réussi à la surmonter. Et c'est là que se construit peut-être quelque chose qu'on pourrait modéliser dans une expérience comme ça. Merci.
Oui, tout à fait, je suis d'accord. C'est pour ça qu'on ne voulait pas rendre ces tâches si faciles. Donc quand ils étaient très performants, on a essayé quand même à déduire leur performance. Mais c'est vrai que peut-être en les facilitant, peut-être notre fonction est super bête. Donc on ajoute juste la moitié de la distance. Donc peut-être ça devrait être aussi plus, je sais pas, linéaire, quelque chose de plus complexe. Mais bon, pour le début, on voulait juste voir, voilà, vérifier comment le flow, comment ça réagit. C'est le commencement.
Toute dernière question, très rapide.
En fait, c'est pas une question, c'est un commentaire rendu sur la question de genre sur la compréhension. Je voulais préciser que le flow, c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas encore bien mesuré, clairement. La complexité est là en fait. Il y a l'intuition au fond derrière tout ça quand il est bien. Donc c'est pas bien mesuré. Et du coup, j'aime bien ton analogie avec le vélo. Mais justement, je renverserai un peu la question, c'est-à-dire que la difficulté, elle vient de tout ce qui pourrait d'une mesure de flow qui serait rigoureuse et précise et objective. Comment on déduirait toute la stratégie qui doit se mettre en place pour un but particulier. Et pour l'exemple du vélo, moi, mon fils il a appris du vélo grâce à une draisienne. Il n'a jamais eu de roulette. C'est-à-dire qu'en fait, tu mets pas de roulette, t'enlèves les pédales. Et ça, on a mis des décennies à trouver, mais c'est vachement plus efficace. Et c'est ça qui est difficile, hein, c'est de trouver cette stratégie.
Et aussi, ce qui est bizarre, moi je veux juste ajouter, par exemple, comment j'ai appris à nager, on a juste, enfin, je sais pas, on a jeté dans l'eau. Tu apprends.
Donc vous avez vu des dynamiques. Merci bien pour la présence lors de cette session.